Hi, welcome to the third Zoom meeting for Embodied Eating. And I am just realizing that there's a bright light behind me, so I am going to turn us towards my bookshelf and get started. All right. Yeah, this is, and I'm going to turn my light off. Hang on. There. Okay. There, that's better. All right. So my name's Erica, and this is the third meeting for Embodied Eating. And today I have an ambitious agenda, and I know we're not going to get through all of it. So I apologize in advance for that. For sure, today we're going to do face yoga. For sure, today we're going to do a mindful eating exercise. We'll see what else we have time for. All right, so let me pull up the slides for today. I like to use those as a way to orient us. And so I'm going to go ahead and share the screen. And we will share the screen with, well, where is it? Hang on. Just a second. I'm missing my share screen. Let me try this again. All right, let's share the screen. Okay. We are not going to share the screen today. I'm not quite sure what's happening with my screen, but that's okay. So what I want to talk about today to begin with is one thing we've been talking about for the first two sessions is being more connected with our body. Many of us who use food as a buffer, or many of us who control our food as a way. Hi, Sue. How are you? Glad you're here. All right. So many of us who use food as a buffer, or use controlling food as a buffer, have a hard time connecting with our body. So that first experience of tapping that we did that first week, and really connecting and feeling our body and owning our own experiences, and that second week of helping us, of that felt sense of safety, of helping us to feel safe in our own bodies, those are important practices. This week, I want us to go back to that first practice if it feels helpful, and I'm going to have you focus in a specific way as you tap. So as you're tapping on your palm, you might express gratitude for your palm or strengthen your palm. And when we move on to this next part, I'll move into that a little bit more. So that's the first piece that we want to do today, and that's within the felt sense, like re-experiencing our body. The second piece that we definitely want to do today is to practice a mindful eating exercise where we really focus on taste satisfaction, because taste satisfaction is a huge tool in helping us learn to trust our body's signals. All right, so I am going to see if I can try the share screen again so we can get a look at the slides. There it is. I got it. All right, perfect. All right, so let's pull this up and let me run the slideshow. So play from, oops. Okay, we're gonna end that. All right, start. All right, so, all right, yeah, so today I was just saying the felt sense awareness. We're going to be working with, and we're going to be working with learning how to trust our hunger signals and satiety signals. And then I had mentioned we'll do the face yoga and maybe this tapping of values. And so in terms of values, that's where I want to go next. So for the first 2 weeks, I've been, repeating the importance of dropping that diet mentality and, that can be challenging. And so today I want to focus on what some of the challenges may be with dropping the diet mentality. So many of us have negative beliefs that we might need to challenge and really consciously work on. Many of us have experienced discrimination because of our weight. We've seen people's stereotypes about weight, and I won't go over it in detail, but you can just see it here on that picture on the right-hand side. Beliefs we have about people, we may have about people who fit the societal norm for weight, and people who are overweight. So we ourselves may have experienced discrimination, and we ourselves may have our own prejudices about being overweight. So we may have our own fat phobia. What most of us, and I would say, I'll retract that. All of us have had the experience of shame and have been wounded in our lives. Those of us with eating issues, the way we try to cope with that shame is through, one of the ways we cope with that shame is through overeating or controlling our eating. So for some of us, when we begin to let go of the food, we also need to begin to let go of these negative beliefs that we have. And we also need to begin to heal that underlying shame and find different ways to help manage the hurts that we experience in life. So some specific beliefs that, some of us have about the correlation between what I weigh and my life could be, I have to wait until I'm a certain size to buy clothes that I like. I don't deserve to eat for pleasure because I'm overweight. I am unworthy because of my appearance. I am weak because I'm overweight. So those are some beliefs that as you move beyond this diet mentality might be important to challenge. And, if we give up beliefs, what takes that place? And so I want to encourage you to think about what values you want to bring into your relationship with food. And what a beautiful place. We have to eat at least 3 times a day. So this is really a beautiful opportunity for you to begin practicing some values around your relationship with food that are nourishing for you, that help you to feel a sense of vitality and openness. So I put down some examples of values. It might be important for you to bring beauty into your relationship with food. I don't know. You might be relatively utilitarian with food, and so taking time to make sure your meal presentation is nice when you can. Care might be important. Care and compassion might be important to bring into your relationship with food, and that might look like being compassionate with yourself when you use food for comfort. That might mean not punishing yourself with food. That might mean bringing care and compassion to the whole experience with food, like showing like you're giving this to your body so that your body can grow, and showing compassion and gratitude for the plants and meat products that are going into your food, or plant and animal products that are going into your food. It might show compassion and care or gratitude for the people who, an acknowledgement for the people who helped to prepare your food. And so taking the time to expand your relationship with food. And so I'm going to switch the screen share to this internet resource for the happiness trap, because I want to show that to you, and I want to give you an idea of how you can begin to get specific about some of the changes in how you relate to food. So I'm going to stop that share, and I'm going to do a new share, which is right here. Okay, share screen. Nope, that's not it. Let me minimize that. So escape. This is what we want. Okay. There. All right. So here, and I think you can see this, though this is looking, yeah, I think we're sharing. Yeah, okay. Actually, I'm going to pause this again, and I'm going to share screen and share. There, now I know we can see it. Okay, so I'm given the link for this worksheet. It's from The Confidence Gap by Russell Harris, and you can pull it up online. If you have issues pulling up this worksheet, feel free to email me, and I can send you a copy as an attachment. So, for example, what you're going to do is there's a list of questions here. And once you figure out what your values are, and if you go to this third page here, there's a list of values, suggestions of values that you may possibly use. Of course, you can identify your own. And so once you identify your values, you're going to come back to these questions. And you're going to ask the question, in a world where I have given up my diet mentality and have unlimited gratitude in my relationship with food, how would I behave differently at meals? How would I walk and talk differently? Or in a world where I give up my diet mentality and my relationship with food is focused on strength, how would I behave differently? How would I walk and talk differently? How would I behave differently during meals? How would I behave differently throughout the day if I believed, if I had unlimited capacity to build my strength, or had unlimited strength? How would I be differently? So by answering these questions, you can begin to get an idea of how you might act differently based on these values. All right. So I'm going to stop that screen share and we will go back to our PowerPoint. All right. So that's one resource, is the happiness trap, to help you define what values you want in your relationship with food. Two other resources that I really, really like. Healthy at Every Size by Linda Bacon. That's a book, and it talks about the political aspects of size, owning your own sense of health and vitality no matter what weight you're at, like starting where you're at. You don't have to wait until the future. And another author I really like, who's a little more political and radical, is Sonia Renee Taylor. And she's just come out with a book called The Body Is Not an Apology. And this book more explicitly links our views on our self-image to a bigger picture, and her picture is pretty political. So if that's up your alley, that might be a nice fit. And Healthy at Every Size is a great fit for anyone. All right, so here the potential homework is going to be, what are your blocks in the diet mentality? You know, your own prejudices and your own shame that needs healing. And what do you want to bring in? What values do you want to bring in with your food? And for that, using that internet resource. Okay, so if we go back to the slideshow, this again is our internal response to food. And I redid the slide because I did not like how I did it last time, and so I've made it a little simpler. Within our internal system, we have two ways. As emotional eaters, we often have two ways of using food to avoid our emotions. And that first one, of course, is proactive, and I've just decided to call it the drill sergeant. And this proactive drill sergeant is preventative. So an example of the drill sergeant might be you want to stop eating sweets. So you don't bring sweets into your home. And if you don't bring sweets into your home, the goal is that you don't have out of control eating, you don't gain weight, and if you don't have out of control eating, you're going to feel better about yourself and not feel like a weak loser. And if you stay a normal size, and this is an example, you assume that you're gonna be able to fit in and not be bullied and not get hurt. And so these drill sergeant thoughts are to help keep us from getting hurt, right? the first responders are proactive. And so once we get hurt, these first responders come in and overeat. These first responders might be pretty pessimistic. So like, oh, what's the, I'm a loser. What's the use anyway? This is the only thing I can enjoy. If we're feeling really intense feelings, whether it's boredom, powerlessness, whatever it might be, we can use food to numb. We can also, if we get really angry, we can use food as a way to like dissipate or get rid of that anger. Some people, when they're angry, they go for a run. Some of us use eating or chewing as a way to get rid of anger. And for those of us, like if we're feeling hopeless and maybe a little bit like a victim, like we've got too much to do, we might eat because, we think we deserve it. So that's the system. We've got this drill sergeant who's trying to keep us from feeling hurt. We've got these first responders for once we do get hurt. And these first responders, try to take away that pain. And often this drill sergeant and first responder get polarized. One thing that I want to offer today is some face yoga, because evolutionarily, well, first of all, yoga, as you probably know, really helps you connect with your body and can be very calming. The second reason why I want to introduce face yoga is because we almost never do face yoga. And physiologically, when we're angry, a physiological response is to bite. That's part of our defensive, that's part of our fight response. And so our jaw muscles and actually into our neck muscles, I specifically want us to do some yoga for that. So I will go through this briefly. I say, let's do 5 minutes worth of yoga. So what I often like to start with is just to bring one ear closer to a shoulder. And so you can drop your right ear to your right shoulder. And begin to deepen your breath. Deep breaths in, deep breaths out. And if you are aware that you're angry while you're doing this, you can even add like an Ujjayi breath in. And so in an Ujjayi breath, to get a sense of what that is like, what you're doing is you're constricting the muscles in the back of your throat. And so take your hand and put it over your mouth, and I'll turn to the side. And you open your mouth and you breathe like you're fogging up a window and make that sort of ha sound. So that's the constriction that you're going for. And now go ahead and close your mouth and do that same thing. Inhale normally, exhale that ha with a closed mouth. And then right ear to right shoulder, exhale. And you can just think about releasing wherever it feels tight, either along that left neck or right neck. Inhale, breathe in fresh, clean air. Exhale, release, let the shoulders drop. If it feels okay, you can take your right hand, place it on top of your head, and that can drop the head a little bit more. And then the other piece you can do, and I'll stand up so you can see this, you take your left hand and press it down as you tilt your head over. And that can give a little bit more of an intense sensation. And then just breathe into that sensation. And then release the hand. And on the next inhale, head comes back to center and tune in. Notice the difference between left and right. And now we move to the opposite side. So first, drop that head over. The second hand comes. Breathe. Ujjayi breath if you'd like. Opposite palm can reach towards the floor. Big, deep breaths. And then release. Dropping the hand. Inhale, bringing the head back up. So that's beginning to get some of these big sort of trap muscles. Sternocleidomastoid, I'm goofing up that name, but these muscles also can get really tight. And a good exercise for that, and I'll explain it here, and then you can practice it. So you're going to lay down on your back, and you're going to make goalpost arms like so, all right? And then you'll turn your left ear and cheek to the mat or to the floor. And on your inhale, you're going to lift your head up off the floor. And you'll stay here for a couple of breaths. And so you'll actually be getting some of your traps, and you'll be getting your sternocleidomastoid a little bit. And then after you keep that head up for a couple of breaths, on your next exhale, let that head drop back to the mat and let those muscles soften. And bring your head back to center. And then you turn your right ear and cheek to the mat. And then again, on the next inhale, you'll lift the head up off the mat. And breathe. And you can use that Ujjayi breath, that Darth Vader breath. And then on your next exhale, release. And then on your next inhale, bring your head back to center. So that can be another nice exercise to begin to loosen some of these neck muscles. A third way to begin to get into some of the accessory muscles that are involved in breathing is a 3-part breath. And so in that 3-part breath, you bring your awareness on the inhale first to your belly, part 1, then to your rib cage, part 2, and then up to your collarbones, part 3. And then on the exhale, collarbones release, rib cage softens, belly pulls in towards the stomach. So when you're doing this 3-part breath, you really need to do a pretty intense, deep breathing. So we'll just practice a few breaths now. So breathe in, 2, 3, at your belly, 4, now at your chest, 5, 6, then up to collarbones, 7, 8, 9, and then slow exhale, collarbones down, 9, 8, 7, ribs, 6, 5, 4, belly pulls in, 3, 2, 1. And so continue that breath a couple more times, breathing in. You feel it in your collarbone. And these sort of neck muscles begin to, and tendons begin to strain, and then exhale, release. And of course, if this is, for some people, this may make you feel a little bit tense. And if it's making you feel even more tense, you don't obviously have to do it. But play around with that deep breathing. All right. And now from here, coming to the face yoga. So I'm going to take my glasses off. So I'm not going to be able to see you very well, but hopefully you can see me. The first one is lion's breath, if you've done it. So you breathe in through your nose, And your exhale, tongue drops, eyes go up. So it's, and jaw really opens. So, and do that 5 times. So keeping with it, each time, dropping the tongue, opening the jaw, eyes look up. And then the inhale, you release, breathe in, exhale, do it again. And then after you've completed your 5th time, just check in with your jaw and your eyes and your tongue. See if they feel a little more release. All right. And of course, we can then do specific movements with the mouth. So one movement is, and if you're a gentleman, this will probably become like second nature because you do this when shaving. So one movement is to move your lips over to your left side, right? And then switch to your right. And you feel a stretch along that left side, and just staying on the left side for a couple of breaths. Well, I'm feeling that stretch, so your jaw is open. So lips are not touching, jaw is open. You feel a little bit of stretch in the jaw and a little bit of stretch along the face. Then you move to the other side. And then you can, do circles with your mouth muscles. And, I guess I'm thinking I'm kind of embarrassed to do this on video. So, do this in the privacy of your own home. It looks kind of silly. And if you are in a private space right now, try it. See what it feels like. We hold a lot of tension in our mouth. Do that 5 or 10 times. And then reverse direction. And after you do that, tune into your jaw. See how your jaw feels. Another exercise. Oh, hang on. Where did that? Here we go. Another exercise to play around with. So, of course, some of us like to chew gum. Some of us like to eat crunchy food as a way to masticate. You can just take a cloth. And, when you're really agitated or upset, bite down on it and hold it for like 4 or 5 seconds. And then release. You can do that on both sides. Another thing that some yogis play around with is to actually hold their tongue. And be gentle if you do this, because our tongue is a huge, big muscle, and we're not used to moving it around a lot. And just do little circles with your tongue. You can stretch your tongue to the left and to the right and up and down. And then, of course, you can end with bringing awareness consciously, to your head and to your face. And so bringing your awareness to your scalp. First, even before you touch, just notice what's present. You might notice some tension. And then as you put your hands on your scalp, that's going to create an automatic relaxation response. And then just begin to give a little massage to different parts of your scalp. And so right now I'm feeling some tension in the back of my neck. So bringing my hands there and massage. And again, I'll take my glasses off. And you can bring your hands to your eyebrows, or some nice pressure points to press into. the bone underneath the eyes, where the eye socket is, pressing into that, and doing that Ujjayi breath again. You can move to the temples, that Ujjayi breath, and just noticing what happens when you rub your temples and you breathe. And then to your jaw, rubbing your jaw and breathing. And then you can give your ears a little massage and a lot of acupressure points here. And so this process of Ujjayi breathing, those neck exercises, lion's pose gets everything, and then breaking down the individual pieces. Mouth movement, right? Biting for jaw. Oh yeah, the last one is you can do eyes. With your eyes closed, you can put your eyes, so I'll keep my eyes open, but you can close your eyes and then lift your eyes towards the ceiling, lift your eyes to the right, and to the left, and then down. You know, so the lion's pose, and then the individual mouth pose, eyes, tongue, and then a little massage. That can be beautiful for some of the anger, specifically that we hold in our jaw. And also with the neck, just sort of general tension, you know, anxiety. All right, so let's move to the next slide. Oops, there. All right, so last week I introduced that hunger scale. And in the hunger scale, 10 is ravenous, right? Or 9 is ravenous, 10 is completely empty. The set at 7, that means that's usually where we tend to, this is usually a good place to eat, is when we're at like a 6 or a 7, where we have some of the hunger signals, but we're not so overly hungry that we're going to be eating anything. So you might have had the stomach growling, some low energy, you know, a little bit of preoccupation or desire with food that's been growing gradually. And then when we're completely satisfied, body satiety looks like the following. And it's interesting to begin to tune into whether the body is satisfied. So it tends to be a sense of energy and well-being, or if we've overeaten, you know, tiredness and bloating. And it's, you know, hard to quantify, but it sets in when that blood sugar begins to rise and other biological or biochemical shifts occur. It starts to happen fairly quickly, but it continues a while as the food is slowly digested. And notice this week, you know, if you go into a meal hungry, you know, like let's say you're at a 7, eat consciously, and after the meal, see if you can experience that body satiety. And we normally notice it 20 or so minutes after a meal, sometimes sooner. And it's not the same as being full. It's not the same as like a full stomach, because we can drink a ton of water and get a full stomach, but we're not very satiated, right? But it's when you start to get that sense of well-being, you lose that energy, you know, you get that energy so you don't have that low energy anymore. And in fact, this body satiety can stay even as the fullness is diminishing in our stomach, right? Because our blood sugar is still shifted, and we're still having those positive biochemical feedbacks. So that's body satiety. Now, begin to notice this week when your body does reach satiety. And the next piece is even more important. Taste satiety or taste satisfaction. And I want to move through this relatively quickly. I don't know that I need to read all of this. The important piece of taste satisfaction, actually I'm going to start with the second big bullet point, is the taste satisfaction meter. And taste satisfaction is defined as how good the food tastes in the moment and how good it tastes in general. So if you're really hungry and you're eating complex flavors, such as a combination of sweet and salty, and the aroma is really good, and you're noticing the food as you eat it, your taste, like let's say you're eating your favorite food item and you're really hungry, your taste, and you haven't had that food item, for, 4 months, your taste satisfaction when you take that first bite is going to be high. It's going to be at a 9 or a 10. Bite 3, that taste satisfaction, that noticing the taste and how good it tastes, might be down to a 5 or a 6. And after you've had like a serving of the food, or let's say if you're not hungry at all, let's say by the 4th bite, you might not even be noticing the food. You might just be automatically chewing, masticating, and not really tasting it at all. And again, as I have alluded, taste satisfaction increases with complex flavors. For single flavors, and especially for sweet and salty, because of the way our brain works, we need ever increasing amounts or concentrations of sweetness and saltiness to get the same taste satisfaction. So in that way, it's kind of like building a tolerance, like you would, like you do for alcohol or for caffeine or other things. You need more and more to get the same effect. All right, this taste satisfaction and actually tuning into the taste, these are really powerful tools. It helps. So when we're eating food for pleasure and for comfort, we know we're not hungry, and we know we want some chips or we want some good chocolate. It allows you to, you can take 4 or 5 squares, really tune into the taste satisfaction. And once you stop tasting the food, that's your sign to stop eating. It's funny, when some people start doing these mindful eating exercises, one common reaction is to be eating food and realize that you don't like it. So if you find yourself eating a food and there are other options available and you don't like that food, stop eating it. You don't have to eat it if you don't like it. If it's all that's available and you're eating your lunch and you need the nutrients and the calories, then, eat it and just, try not to taste it so much. But especially when we're eating for pleasure and we tune in and we find that we're eating a food that we don't even like, stop. If you're going to eat for pleasure and comfort, make sure you're really enjoying it. Another thing can be, last week we took some space in between the mindful eating to allow us to notice the release of the flavor and the absence of the flavor. And so continuing to practice that so you become comfortable with absence of sensation. That can help us stop chasing the flavor and the memory of the flavor. And by tuning into taste satisfaction, that helps us to gain that mastery over tempting foods. By stopping when we no longer taste the food, by stopping if we don't like the food, by stopping chasing the flavor, knowing we'll get it another time. All right. So the next thing that I definitely wanted to get to today is this taste satisfaction exercise. So take your 4 pieces of food and set them out in front of you. And once you have your 4 pieces of food in front of you, begin to tune in. You can close your eyes, pay attention to your breath, and take a few conscious deep breaths. And as you're here, notice your hunger level, right? Rating your hunger on a scale of 1 to 10. 1, completely satisfied. 7, ready for a meal. 10, ravenous. And then go ahead and open your eyes if they're not open, and begin to rate the presentation and the aroma of the food. So how does it look? And as you look at it, how does that affect your hunger level? How does that affect the digestive processes? Does your stomach begin to growl? Does your mouth begin to salivate? And so you look at it and you look at the texture, the size, the color. Notice any aroma. And you're going to use that to help you, that's going to be a factor in the taste satisfaction, right? If it smells putrid, you're probably not going to find it very satisfying. And so then place that food in your mouth. Chew at the rate that allows you to have the most pleasurable experience. And rate your taste satisfaction on a scale of 1 to 10. 1, spit it out. 10, best food you've ever tasted. So the taste satisfaction includes assessing the complexity of the flavor. Notice your own internal response to the flavor, the texture, the aroma, the presentation. The intensity of the sensations can play a role. And then how quickly those sensations pass. And then when you're ready, you can swallow the food. And then notice that lack of texture and taste in your mouth. And see if you can appreciate that absence. That is also a sensation. So then you're going to continue this practice with the 2nd through 4th items of food. So you'll, beginning with the rating, presentation, and aroma. And as you put that 2nd piece in your mouth, give it a taste satisfaction. That scale of 1 to 10. Again, chew at a rate that allows you to experience the most pleasure. Give it a number. When you're ready, swallow that piece of food. Take a couple of breaths and notice the lack of taste and texture in your mouth. And then continue with the third piece, giving it a taste satisfaction rating. And then the fourth piece. And then I have the caveat down at number 8 of stopping. If the taste satisfaction goes below a 3 or a 4 at any point in any of these exercises, pause and ask yourself if you want to continue eating. You may want to, and if you choose to, no problem. And if you decide you're done for now, feel free to stop as well. All right. So I am assuming that between the first piece of food and the fourth piece of food, the taste satisfaction was lower with the fourth piece of food as compared to the first. And so you can really use this in mindful eating, because mindful eating isn't about dieting. It isn't about getting rid of foods. It's about enjoying what's present. And once you stop enjoying it, that's your body's signal to stop. And that's our innate signal for stopping. And many of us override it. So over the next couple of weeks, I want you to practice this exercise at least 2 different times. And actually, the more you practice these exercises, the more you begin to integrate it. So do it at least 2 times. And one of the times, do it when you're not hungry. So maybe, 40 minutes after a meal or something. And do it once when you're relatively hungry, like right before a meal. And notice the difference in taste satisfaction. When we are hungry, taste satisfaction goes up. And so that's a real way to tell if you're hungry. If foods that you normally find satisfying, if you're finding them satisfying. If you're not hungry and you're eating, the foods aren't going to feel satiating. And you're going to need something more and more intense. So just play around with that. And also, when you find yourself eating for comfort or pleasure, imagine that you're doing this exercise. Really allow yourself to enjoy the food. When you stop enjoying the food, you don't have to put the food away forever. Maybe you just put it down for 20 or 30 minutes and then you finish the rest of your snack or the rest of your dessert once you're tasting it more again. Or maybe you have a serving of your snack or a glass of your wine, and that's enough. That's really all you need. All right. So that's going to be the exercises for the next couple of weeks. All right. So in terms of movement, just to recap, moving is so good for many things. And if you've got the time and energy for it, do it. Definitely practice face yoga. And if you are a person who masticates and who grinds their teeth, or who likes to masticate and likes to crunchy, chewy things, and if you grind your teeth, definitely do face yoga. So again, in terms of meditations, you can practice that calming the body meditation that we did last week. And then that first week, once you figure out what your values are, you can think about practicing your tapping with those values in mind. Thoughts. So we all have prejudices, and we all have wounds. And so begin to identify what some of those prejudices are, Like, I think, you know, like, and what some of those actually specifically translate into beliefs for yourself. Like, I don't deserve to eat good food because I'm overweight. And don't try to push them away, but just notice that and begin to notice what um, unhelpful, distorted beliefs that you have, and then play around with. If I gave up this idea that I need to be thin to eat clothes or to eat food that I like, um, and I believe that I am worthy, um, how would I act during the day? How would I eat? How would I feel? So, you know, go through that series of questions based on that confidence gap PDF file that I gave the link to. So, in terms of food, you know, keeping your food diary, if that's what you're doing with the nutritionist. And again, I'll just always keep this in there, you know, eat meals, avoid restricting if possible, it doesn't work. And do the taste satisfaction exercises from slide 7 that we just did. And then as we begin to give up specific beliefs, and as we begin to release control of food and eat based on hunger and stop when we're satisfied, um, that is a big change for many of us. And for many of us, it means that we're cutting back on emotional eating. And so it can be, and just even just changing habits can be upsetting. So as you begin to make some of these changes, assess, you know, do you need more support? And if you do, email me and let me know. So I'm going to go back to this slide right here. It might be that you want to see a psychotherapist. We'll talk more about some of the physiological factors that affect diet, but it might be that you need to see a functional physician or a functional nurse to assess any metabolic issues or issues, physiological issues with appetite. If you use food as a buffer 24/7, it might be that you try a 12-step program like Overeaters Anonymous. You may want a trainer or a coach, you know, specific, like if you're not overeating, you might find that your worries about money are present. So you need to go to the library and get a book out about money. You may want to see a physical therapist or like a trainer for exercise if you're having trouble with that aspect. So finding ways, if needed, and especially for me as a psychotherapist, as emotional pieces arise, and if shame comes up and feels overwhelming, and if you find yourself sobbing, you know, where can you find more support? So that those are the practices for week 5 and 6. So we're getting through this. I will talk to you all in 2 weeks, and have a great couple of weeks. I hope you're able to enjoy the spring weather that I know is coming. And I hope you're able to continue to drop into your body. Trust your hunger, satiety, and have an increased sense of vitality in your life. All right, take care.